left his home at 1:15 p.m. By 2:30, he had vanished, and no one, not the FBI, not the mob, not even his family, ever saw him again. Jimmy Hoffa was once one of the most powerful men in America. Now he's a ghost. No body, no answers, just rumors, silence, and fear. To understand his disappearance, you have to understand his rise. Born in 1930, Hoffa grew up hard, a poor kid from Indiana who clawed his way into power. By 1959, he led the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, the largest labor union in the United States. He negotiated billion-dollar pension funds, wielded political influence, and commanded loyalty like a general. But that power came with shadows, and those shadows would one day swallow him whole. On July 30th, 1975, Hoffa was supposed to meet two mafia-connected figures at Marcus Red Fox restaurant in Bloomfield Township, Michigan. He waited, they never showed up, or maybe they did. By nightfall, he was gone, just gone. In this film, we will retrace Hoffa's final steps, uncover the secret wars that surrounded him, and expose the shocking theories of what really happened that day. So stay with us, because the closer you get to the truth, the more dangerous it becomes. Before the mystery, there was the empire. An empire built not on gold, but on muscle, loyalty, and fear. Born in 1913 in Brazil, Indiana, Hoffa was just 7 when his father died. By his teens, he was unloading freight cars for pennies. The Great Depression crushed millions, but it forged Hoffa's resolve. He wasn't just surviving, he was organizing. At 18, he led his first strike and won. He saw what most people didn't. Alone, a worker is disposable. Together, unstoppable. By 1957, Hoffa controlled the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Over 2 million truckers, dock workers, warehouse crew. He had influence that rivaled governors, even presidents. But people like that doesn't come clean. And Hoffa didn't care. He cut deals with the American Mafia. Monster got access to Teamster multi-billion-dollar pension fund. In return, Hoffa got muscle, protection, leverage. He was the kingmaker of working-class America, and a king protected by gangsters. But every empire creates enemies, and Hoffa's enemies were relentless. Robert F. Kennedy, the crusading U.S. Attorney General, made Hoffa his personal mission. For years, the FBI wiretapped his phone, tailed his cars, and hunted for evidence. For RFK, he believed Hoffa needs to be in jail. And they did. In 1967, Hoffa was convicted of jury tampering, fraud, and bribery. 8 years behind bars. For most, that would be the end. But Hoffa was different. Even from prison, he pulled the strings. And when Richard Nixon pardoned him in 1971, he emerged determined to reclaim his throne. But the world has changed. New mob bosses ruled. They didn't want Hoffa back. And that is when the death clock started ticking. July 30th, a warm Wednesday in Detroit, Hoffa left his lakefront home around 1 p.m. He told his wife, "I'm going to meet some old friends. We'll talk business." Those were the last words she ever had. He drove his green Pontiac Grandville to the Marcus Red Fox restaurant, a quiet diner near the edge of Detroit. He was set to meet two powerful mob-linked figures. Anthony Tony Jack Yakalon, and Anthony Tony Provenzano, but they both denied ever being there. 2:25 p.m., witnesses saw Hoffa pacing outside the diner. Alone, frustrated, he called his wife from a payphone. "They are late again." Moments later, a car pulled up. A dark-colored Mercury Marquis. Hoffa gets in, the door closes, and just like that, Jimmy Hoffa vanished. By nightfall, he hadn't come home. His car sat abandoned in the parking lot. His family panicked. The FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in U.S. history. They searched fields, rivers, landfills, even drained lakes. Nothing, not a hair, not a thread. The list of suspects read like a mafia roll call. Anthony Tony Provenzano, once Hoffa Halley, now rival. Anthony Yakaloni, Detroit's mob figure with deep union ties. Salvatore Briguglio, alleged enforcer and Hoffa's known enemy. Frank Sheeran, a trusted Hoffa's associate, who later claimed he killed him. But no one spoke, because in that world, silence was survival. Years passed. Every lead collapsed into dead ends. Witnesses recanted, evidence vanished, even wiretaps revealed only one chilling truth. They wanted Hoffa gone, and they made him disappear without a trace. For decades, the question had haunted America. What really happened to Jimmy Hoffa? The most widely accepted theory was that the mafia silenced him. Hoffa was planning a comeback and threatening to expose old mob ties to regain control of Teamsters. Investigators believe he was lured to that launch, killed swiftly, then cremated in a mob-controlled crematorium. No body, no evidence, just smoke and silence. One of the strangest legends claims Hoffa was buried under the old Giants Stadium in New Jersey. Workers swore they saw suspicious concrete being poured the night he vanished. When the stadium was torn down in 2010, no remains were found. Others claim he was shoved into a 55-gallon oil drum at Newark Docks and buried in a landfill. In 2019, ground-penetrating radar found metal drums buried near Jersey City. But when agents dug, they found nothing. Then came a shocking twist. Frank the Irishman Sheeran, Hoffa's loyal friend, claimed he was ordered to kill him. Sheeran said he shot Hoffa twice in the head inside a Detroit house, and the body was cremated hours later. But the house showed traces of blood, not enough to prove it was Hoffa's. Every theory circled back to the same brutal fact. If Hoffa was killed by the mob, everyone who knew is either dead or too terrified to speak. Nearly 50 years later, his body has never been found. His case remains one of FBI's greatest unsolved mysteries. Jimmy Hoffa walked out of his suburban home, never knowing it would be his last day seen alive. A man who once ruled the Teamsters with an iron grip, pacing nervously in his driveway, clutching a note. He was supposed to meet two men, Anthony Gessalon, a feared Detroit mobster, Anthony Provenzano, a former Union ally turned deadly enemy. Hoffa's wife watched from the windows as he climbed into his green Pontiac Grandville. The engine rumbled to life, and Hoffa drove straight into the jaws of history's darkest mystery. The Red Fox was bustling with diners, but Hoffa waited alone. Minutes turned to hours, and no one showed. At 4 p.m., he called his wife. "They are late. Something's wrong." It was a last word she ever heard from him. By nightfall, his car was still there, but Jimmy Hoffa was gone. Newsrooms caught fire with rumors. A labor titan vanished without a trace. No ransom note, no body, nothing. If Hoffa returned, he had exposed secrets the mob couldn't afford to let see daylight. But did they silence him? Some say he was lured into a peace meeting. Others say he was driven away at gunpoint. No screams, no struggle, just gone. One of the most powerful men in America, erased in broad daylight. And from that moment, Jimmy Hoffa became a ghost. But here's where it gets darker, because what happened after his disappearance is even more chilling. The FBI mounted the biggest missing person investigation in its history. Over 200 agents, thousands of interviews, not a single body. Then something even stranger happened. People stopped talking. Inside Teamster halls, fear spread like wildfire. Hoffa's highlights vanished from public view. His enemies suddenly grew quiet. Some said phones were tapped, others whispered they were followed, but no one dared speak Hoffa's name out loud. It was as if a curtain had fallen. Conspiracy of silence. Behind closed doors, the FBI believed they knew who did it, but proving it was impossible.
They suspected the mafia, especially Anthony Provenzano and Anthony Giacalone. Both had mob ties. Both had threatened Hoffa.
But without a body, the case crumbled. It was a perfect crime. And then came the theories. Was Hoffa buried under Giant Stadium, ground into scrape at a Detroit auto yard, dissolved in acid, or entombed in wet cement beneath a skyscraper? The stories were wild, but none could be proven. Even mobsters inside stayed silent. A code of blood and fear sealed their lips. Years later, one man broke the silence. Sharon claimed he shot Hoffa inside a Detroit house and watched his body vanish forever. But the FBI found no blood, no bones, no proof. Just another ghost story, swallowed by time. Over decades, the trail rotted, witnesses died, records were destroyed, leads dried up. It was as if someone wanted it forgotten. The deeper the FBI dug, the more the ground gave way. Hoffa Ghost still haunts America, a symbol of power and what happens when you cross the wrong man. To this day, the FBI keeps an open file, but insiders whisper they never solve it. Because the men who knew the truth made sure it was buried with them. Imagine building an empire so powerful that even your disappearance can't kill your legend. Jimmy Hoffa wasn't just a union leader. He was a voice for millions of working men. Feared by corporations, feared by the government, even feared by the mob that once embraced him. After he vanished in 1975, the world expected his name to fade. But it didn't. It grew louder, bigger, more mysterious. Here's the chilling part. Some say his disappearance made him immortal. Every few years, someone claims to know where his body lies. Every claim reignites the fire, pulling Hoffa's ghost back into the headline. Even today, his name is whispered in boardrooms, debated in documentaries, and immortalized in films. He became more than a man. He became a myth. And myths never die. But here's the real question. Was Hoffa a hero or a monster? Comment hero or monster below.